Poland's Air Force is preparing to retire its last fighting MiG-29s, and for months, one question hung over Warsaw and Kyiv alike. Would these final jets go to Ukraine before they're scrapped, or would they simply disappear into storage as a forgotten chapter of Cold War aviation history? The answer, at least for now, is no. A deal that once looked close to certain has fallen apart, and the reasons behind its collapse reveal just how strained the relationship between Poland and Ukraine has become. The MiG-29 has been a cornerstone of Poland's air defense since 1989, when it became one of the first nations outside the Soviet sphere to operate the aircraft as part of a broader modernization push away from the older, less capable MiG-21. At the time, the MiG-29 represented a genuine leap forward for the Polish Air Force. Its twin engines gave it a thrust-to-weight ratio that rivaled Western fighters of the era. Its helmet-mounted targeting system paired with short-range R-73 missiles gave pilots an off-boresight engagement capability that NATO air forces wouldn't match for years, and its high maneuverability made it a formidable dogfighter in the hands of a skilled pilot. Over the following decades, Poland expanded its fleet through additional acquisitions from the Czech Republic in 1995 and from Germany in 2004, absorbing surplus East German airframes as reunification reshuffled Cold War-era military assets across the continent. Alongside these acquisitions, Poland continuously upgraded avionics, navigation, and communication systems to keep the jets compatible with NATO operations, a process that allowed the MiG-29 to participate in joint air policing missions and multinational exercises for years. By the mid-2020s, though, the MiG-29's days were clearly numbered, and not because of any single dramatic event, but because of the steady, unglamorous math of aircraft aging. Poland has been rapidly modernizing its air force on multiple fronts simultaneously. Its F-16 fleet has been in full operational service for years, forming the backbone of its current fighter capability. South Korean-built Fa-50 light combat aircraft have begun arriving as a cost-effective complement for training and lighter combat roles. And the country is preparing for the arrival of F-35s in the coming years, a fifth-generation leap that will place Poland among a small group of European nations operating stealth fighters. Against that backdrop, the remaining MiG-29 fleet, roughly 14 aircraft split between 11 single-seat and 3 dual-seat variants, based primarily at Malbork and Minsk-Mazowiecki, became increasingly obsolete both technically and strategically. These jets had received some modernization in the early 2010s, upgrades to radar, navigation, and weapons integration, but airframes originally built in the late Soviet period were approaching the natural end of their service life regardless of how many electronic upgrades were bolted on. For Ukraine, the timing of Poland's retirement plans mattered enormously. Kyiv's own MiG-29 fleet, once the backbone of its combat aviation and a source of national pride in the early weeks of the war, has been worn down by years of intense air-to-air losses against Russian fighters and persistent attrition from Russian integrated air defense networks. Ukrainian pilots have flown these aircraft since the earliest days of the conflict, often in contested airspace against numerically and technologically superior opponents, and losses have been significant and sustained rather than occasional. Reports from a particularly brutal stretch of engagements in October 2023 described as many as 17 MiG-29s lost in air-to-air combat over the course of just 10 days. Even the legendary early war stories that captured global attention, like the supposed exploits of a pilot nicknamed the Ghost of Kyiv, credited with an implausible string of aerial victories, were later acknowledged by multiple Western outlets and Ukrainian officials themselves to have been morale-boosting exaggerations rather than documented combat records. Given that context, Polish MiG-29s looked like a genuine lifeline for Ukraine's air force. Poland no longer needed them for its own defense. Ukraine desperately did, and on paper the logic of transferring them seemed straightforward, almost obvious. But Polish officials didn't frame the potential handover as a simple, one-directional gift the way earlier wartime donations of equipment had often been characterized. Instead, they proposed a reciprocal arrangement, one that reflected a maturing and increasingly pragmatic approach to alliance support. Poland would part with its remaining MiGs in exchange for access to Ukraine's rapidly advancing drone and missile technology, areas where Kyiv, largely out of wartime necessity, has developed some of the most combat-tested unmanned systems and production expertise in the world today. That arrangement is exactly what fell apart, and the collapse wasn't quiet or ambiguous. Polish officials, including senior defense figures, stated publicly that Ukraine agreed in principle to share drone technology, production know-how, and related expertise as part of the deal, but never followed through on those commitments in any substantive way. The phrase used by one Polish minister was notably blunt, cutting through the usual diplomatic hedging. There are no MiGs because there are no drones. It was a clear, almost pointed signal that Warsaw no longer views support for Ukraine as an unconditional or open-ended commitment, but increasingly as something that has to be earned through demonstrated reciprocal value. Technical problems compounded the political friction and gave Poland additional justification for hesitation. When Ukrainian teams inspected the Polish jets more closely as part of due diligence before any transfer, they reportedly found serious issues, including significant landing gear wear and broader airframe deterioration that would require expensive, time-consuming overhauls before the aircraft could be considered combat-ready for frontline operations. Poland, for its part, was unwilling to fund those repairs itself, and Ukraine was in no financial or logistical position to absorb the cost either, given the strain already placed on its defense budget by ongoing combat operations. Underneath the technical and transactional issues, there's also a deeper and more uncomfortable strain running through the Poland-Ukraine relationship. Diplomatic tension has been building for some time around historical disputes, particularly disagreements over the commemoration of World War II-era events tied to Ukrainian nationalist movements, a subject that remains deeply sensitive in Polish domestic politics. That friction, while seemingly unrelated to fighter jets on the surface, has bled into military cooperation more broadly, making both governments warier of extending goodwill without firmer guarantees of something permanent. It's worth stepping back at this point to consider what was actually at stake militarily. Even if the deal had gone through before, with all 14 aircraft transferred and fully repaired, it's unlikely that a batch of aging MiG-29s would have meaningfully shifted the balance of the air war in the last decade. Russian pilots and integrated air defense networks have consistently demonstrated the ability to neutralize this class of aircraft throughout the conflict. And Ukraine's broader challenge isn't simply a shortage of airframes. It's the structural inability to establish a real measure of air superiority against a numerically and technologically superior opponent. Manpower shortages, logistical strain, and the sheer scale of Russian firepower continue to define the trajectory of this war far more decisively than any single batch of Soviet-era fighters ever could. There's a certain irony in watching aircraft originally designed and built under the Soviet system get shuffled between former Warsaw Pact states in an attempt to counter the modern successor to that very system. But irony aside, the practical reality is that outdated hardware, however well-intentioned the transfer and however symbolically resonant, was never going to be the turning point that either side may have once hoped for. Some reports suggest that negotiations haven't been fully abandoned, with occasional signals of renewed talks around a smaller, more limited exchange involving fewer aircraft and more modest expectations on both sides. But the core obstacles, aircraft condition, funding disputes, and a growing trust deficit between Warsaw and Kyiv remain firmly in place regardless of how the talks are reframed. What this episode really reflects is a broader shift happening across parts of Europe, a gradual move away from open-ended, unconditional support toward a more transactional, interest-based approach, where allies increasingly expect something concrete and reciprocal in return for continued military assistance. For Ukraine, the collapse of this deal means one less potential source of replacement aircraft at a moment when its air force can least afford to lose options. For Poland, it marks the quiet, largely uneventful end of an era, as its last Soviet-designed fighters head toward retirement and storage without ever making that final journey east that once seemed all but certain. And for the war itself, It stands as another reminder that this conflict will ultimately be decided by sustained industrial capacity, manpower, and strategic resolve, not by the symbolic transfer of aging fighter jets from one nation's boneyard to another's front line.